when first I saw the love light in your eye. I thought the world held naught but joy for me.
We don't come here tonight to Tara to bury Ireland. We come to raise her in this beautiful place, in this historical place, this extraordinary place that takes us back thousands of years to our pagan ancestors and brings us through the whole Christian period right up to the present. And it's still here as a monument to Irish striving and Irish survival. And in a way, that's why we're here, to pledge ourselves again in this holy place to the fight, to the struggle that we have to undertake. The fight that we've been conducting for the last 5 years against the tyranny that has enveloped us, which has been going on much longer than that. But in particular, the last 15 years, when Ireland has been subjected to hammer blow after hammer blow of tyranny and abusiveness and lying and plunder. Going back to 2011, when we had effectively a coup, I call it the autocolpe assistito, the assisted self-coup, in which the local scumbags were assisted by a very obliging set of exterior scumbags to take control of our country and turn it into something else, which it is now halfway in transition to becoming. And then in 2012 we had the beginnings of several hammer blows on our constitution, which essentially reduced it to ribbons 10 years later. In 2012, in 2015 and 2018, 3 referendums which attacked the very basis of our rights as human beings. Not rights given to us by the state, rights coming to us from God, but taken from us by the state, using the licensed force that we license for our protection against us. And in 2020, this became the final tin hat on the whole thing. COVID was not about COVID. COVID was about everything except COVID. COVID was an excuse, a justification, a fiction. What was really happening was that our country was being taken away from under us, as were the countries of many other peoples in Europe and right throughout the West. And immediately it seemed to me that it was obvious that what was happening should not have been happening, could not have been happening. It was against everything we had ever been told about our position as sovereign people, about our rights, about our freedoms, about our constitution, and the way that it underpinned all those things. And all those things were taken from us overnight. And the most astonishing thing about it was that virtually nobody stood up to say, no, this cannot happen. Only a handful of us. The people that we had listened to prating all their lives, all our lives, about freedom and liberty and democracy and equality and fairness, they were silent. I still cannot understand it. Did they get a memo that I didn't get? Did somebody tell them in advance that this was happening, they better keep their mouths shut? Because these people had talked for years about all these values, and now these values were being shredded in plain sight, and they had nothing to say. In 2020, myself and Gemma O'Doherty took a constitutional action to the High Court to challenge the lockdown. I didn't want to do it, frankly. I'm a draft dodger. But I assumed that everybody else would be doing the same thing. It would be trampled to death in the round hall of the Four Courts. But when we got there was nobody else there except us. So we had to go ahead. And we did. It took 2.5 years for the courts at the very highest level, 7 judges in the end, to tell us that we had no case. I don't mean no case in substance, because they never listened to the substance. No case to begin the process, which is something that one judge sitting alone could have told us on the first day if it were true. But it wasn't true. It was a lie. And that lie was perpetrated right across those 2.5 years by corrupt media, by politicians, by corrupt judges, which is basically, at this stage, a tautology. Corrupt judge is a tautology. Both words mean the same thing. Then I started in 2020 to write about what was happening, but I wasn't writing about it as a reporter as such, not in the normal sense. I was writing about it as a writer, out of my own experience of observing it, learning about it, watching it, trying to understand aspects of it that were puzzling me, raising the questions that seemed to bubble up in the ether, you know, things I'd never seen before, the bizarre behaviour of my fellow citizens, the way they turned into savages in the street against anybody who went against this narrative, the way the media were able to hypnotise people and deny them the truth in the first instance, and thereafter to deny them the sense that anything that they knew could be relied upon. And that was especially true in my case, because I began to realise that everything we were being told was false. Everything. So I invented these 4 rules to kind of ground myself at every moment along the way, because indoctrination and propaganda, no matter how clever you think you are, no matter how much you think you understand about it, no matter how much you believe you've transcended the possibility of being hypnotized, you still have to be careful. They were almost like a prayer. They were, number 1, every word out of their mouths is a lie. Number 2, they're not in charge. Number 3, it's not about your health. Number 4, they're trying to kill you. I will change none of those rules now. After 5 years, I cannot change a single word of those 4 rules. They still work in understanding what's happening and in correcting myself if I ever find myself wavering into discussion or thought that is part of the pseudo-reality, which is what surrounds us all the time, in there, in the cities, in the towns, not out here, which is one of the reasons for being here. There's no pseudo-reality out here. I had a granddaughter, my first grandchild arrived 2 weeks ago, and her name is Nina Monique. And before I was determined, I was utterly determined to keep going. I don't know what word I would use about what I am now. I cannot sleep while she is sleeping for fear that anything would happen to her. I cannot die and leave her here in this shithole. And we never dreamt that we would see days like these, or nights like these. I must go on. Like Beckett says, I can't go on. I must go on. I'll go on. So this is the book I hope that when Nina Monique grows up, she can pick up and read, and all of her contemporaries, no matter what happens in the interim. It may take 70 years to get our country back, and I won't be around for that, I don't think. But I want this book to survive so that she can, and her friends can read it and understand something about what happened, what it was like before, what happened, and what it became, and why that happened, and why our own people failed to fight it, failed to resist, most of them. The subtitle is A First Draft of the End of History, and that is not a fatalistic subtitle. That's exactly what it means, a first draft of the end of history. And what I mean by that is that if we don't do something, if we don't succeed, then this first draft will stand, and it's pretty dark. But I would like to think that I can revise it while I'm still around, maybe in 5 or 10 years, and that the ending will be a happy one, or a happier one than the one that's on it now. The book is really a series of impressions written pretty much weekly in that period. It covers everything except COVID. I'm sure COVID is mentioned in there, I can't remember, but I don't regard COVID as important. I don't care about the PCR test. I don't care about what the microbiologists have to say. They're all criminals. What I care about is what COVID did to us, what it has done to our souls and our hearts. The monsters who have placed this burden on our children, I want them brought to justice. If there can ever again be justice in our country, because there is no justice now. The courts are utterly, utterly, utterly corrupt. The judges and the politicians got together in late 2019 to ready up the suspension of the Irish Constitution. On August 15th, 2019, a memo went out from BlackRock, the world's biggest criminal organisation, to the Federal Exchange and the G20, saying that the world economy was about to collapse and needed to be put essentially into a coma. I'm paraphrasing slightly. And that's what COVID happened. Nothing to do with your health, nothing to do with anything natural, nothing to do with anything other than an imposition of a criminal conspiracy on the people. And we've been under the cosh of that ever since. And we will continue under the cosh of that, and it will grow worse unless we can raise the consciousness of our people to the point where they will say, enough, go in the name of God, go. I'm very, very moved to be here. And I feel this could be a turning point for me, maybe for you as well, maybe for the country, I don't know. This is a spiritual place in every sense. Not a Catholic place, not even a Christian place necessarily, it's a spiritual place. It transcends all sects and denominations. It is Ireland. If there is a locus of the soul of Ireland in the geography of Ireland, then it is here. So this is my contribution to help people to understand what I understand. I don't say I'm right about everything, by the way. A lot of it is hypothesis, a lot of it is speculation, putting pieces together that don't quite fit maybe. There's a piece missing in the middle. But I think the general picture is correct, and the general picture is very dark. Because what this is about fundamentally is the plunder of everything. It is the robbing of everybody's property, their countries, their homelands, their histories, their cultures, everything. It's the great taking that the entire legal systems of the Western world have been readied up to rob the people of the West of everything they have and to reduce them to serfs and to create a new neo-feudal reality into which our children will be born, and a digital prison using CBCDs, central bank digital currencies, which is basically a programmable money system, but it isn't money. It will be like tokens that you can get, you will get as a kind of social welfare every month if you behave yourself. If you don't, they will take it back. They can switch it off like that. This is not a future I want for my granddaughter. I don't think you people want it either. I don't think anybody in Ireland wants it. The only thing that prevents the people of Ireland from understanding is the corruption of the media. I was a journalist in this country for 35 years in the mainstream of Irish life. I was on every radio and television show that ever was. I wrote in numerous newspapers. I couldn't have dreamt what's happened to my profession now. They have turned into criminals without exception. They are liars. They are paid liars. They get up in the morning, they put on their clothes, they shave, whatever, and then they go out and they lie and lie and lie all day long. And that is why our people, more than anything else, are bemused and enchanted and entranced with lies. It's not their fault. It really isn't their fault. They're not stupid. They're simply misled at the most profound level. And we have to find the code to break into their consciousness and strike that note with them. Not to preach to them, not to be annoyed with them, not to be angry, not to be vindictive, but to be ourselves. To be content in the knowledge that we have, however dark it may be. And to be proud to be able to tell the truth to everybody that will listen, even if only fleetingly. To implant one thought in one day that will have them go away and begin to rethink everything. That's what we need to do, because there is no other way. Protests won't do it. Violence won't do it. Voting won't do it. What we need is to begin a conversation one-to-one in the first place, but also to create conversations in our villages and towns, parishes and so on. Maybe have a little party, just tea and sandwiches, invite people and say you want to talk about the state of the country. I don't think you need to even introduce the topic now. Around the edges of this, people are beginning to nibble at the appalling travesty that has been imposed on our country under numerous headings. I think people are beginning to ask questions, and they only need a little bit of affirmation for them to talk. But I can see people really, for the first time maybe in a while, being able to speak to an audience of people like themselves and hear themselves saying things they never thought were allowed to say and never thought they would be able to say again. That's what our country needs more than anything. It's conversation, it's discussion. It's not shouting and roaring or marching, it's actually just engagement with each other. And it's not too late. It's not too late. The consciousness raising that we need will reach a critical mass much more quickly than we think. And then it will do its own work. Then it will multiply. it will go exponential.